Just what you guys wanted to learn. I know you wanted to get a nice woodworking tutorial. Well, you got your woodworking tutorial. Here, it's coming. So basically, I'm starting with it's 1x4s of redwood. You can buy special like baseboard stuff, but it's a lot more expensive per square foot. So I just prefer just to start with like just basic 1x4s. The way you have to prep it is first you sand it. If it starts out pretty rough, you start with kind of a heavier grit sandpaper, but you want to finish off with like a 220 grit, so you get a nice smooth finish. The smoother it is, the less stain it's actually going to take, and you get a slightly lighter color. So you can actually, once you start getting good at it, you can play with it by doing sanding it less or sanding it more in order to get it to take more, to get darker or lighter, whatever color you go for. I like to get it nice and smooth so that I use less stain when I'm doing it. So first we start off just by a quick pass on staining, just to take the bumps off of it, and then we'll get to staining and varnishing. So for staining, all you need is you need your stain, obviously your wood. You need a brush. I like to use a foam brush for it because it puts it on nice and smooth, and then a cloth to wipe it down with. You'll see where this comes in later, because staining is not like painting. Painting, you put the stuff on there and you let it dry on there. Staining is exactly that. You're trying to stain your wood's color, and so you put it on there, it soaks in, leaves a stain, and then you actually wipe it off after like 5 minutes of letting it sit there, depending on how dark you want it to get. Little dunk, spread it on there. You let it soak in. And then it comes out, it looks initially a little bit darker than what you're gonna end up with, because you're gonna end up wiping it off, remember. One thing to take away from this that applies to 3ds Max, it's patience. Lots and lots of patience. So after you apply the stain on liberally and you wait for about 5 minutes, you remove it with like a rag or a paper towel or really whatever. And the idea here is you wipe it pretty good, because you want to make sure you get everything off of it, all the excess off of it. If you leave the excess on and it dries onto there, it can make it so the varnish doesn't stick as well when you put that on there. So you want to get the excess off, so it's just the stain that's inside the wood that you're leaving. Alright, so finished up every single one of the boards. Basically stain, you have to leave it on for about 6 hours, they recommend on the jar to dry. So in this case, since the sun's setting, I'll probably just finish it up tomorrow, let it dry overnight. So tomorrow, I'll show you guys the wonderful world of varnishing. So I've let the stain dry overnight. Alright, so now it's time to varnish. Varnish is, so between staining and varnishing, you don't want to sand it at all. You leave the surface completely untouched. However, varnish, you're going to sand a little bit after that. So make sure you don't ever sand on top of your stain, because it screws it up. It makes it turn all milky and you lose your color and it doesn't look good. So I'm using Miniwax, polyurethane. It doesn't really matter what brand you use, they all work. The basic principle is you put it on, nice and smooth, thin coat. You use like a foam brush again to put it on there, and apply it thin and evenly, and let it dry for about 2 hours before your next coat. I know you're tempted to stop. Just now, you'll be more tempted to stop because it looks pretty damn nice. But if you sand it down lightly with 220 grit sandpaper and then apply a second coat, not only will it last longer, but it also turns out smoother each time. So the way you do the sanding is always with the grain. You sand it real lightly, because you don't want to take off the varnish. You don't want to take all of it off, otherwise you're just going backwards. You just want to take off the little bumps on it. You just kind of rough up the surface. You make it so that the next coat can bond to it. If you don't do it, so it's not just to smooth it out, it's also to make it so it bonds better. So just give it a little bit like this. And it'll be all good. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and sand the rest of these, but before I go on to that, I'm gonna show you guys what you do after you sand. You always have to remove all the dust. If you leave the dust on there, then the varnish won't have a complete seal. So take my rag, the same rag I used to wipe the stain, doesn't really matter, and clean the dust up, so you don't leave that in between there. Once you've lightly sanded it and removed the dust, you'll notice it's really smooth. Now it's time to apply your next coat. And this second coat should turn out even nicer looking and smoother than the first one. When applying the coat, something I forgot to say before is you always apply with the grain. Everything's with the grain. So you sand with the grain, you put stain on with the grain, you put varnish on with the grain, you sand again with the grain, always with the grain. After everything is dried for about 24 hours, I took it inside, cut it all up, and then hung it up on the wall. I like to cut it afterwards so that I don't have to measure things out in advance. You can kind of adjust. If you have the right tools for it, you can cut pretty cleanly and it's not a big issue. So as you can see, it really finishes off the floor. You get that line between there and it looks polished. It kind of hides when you do the wood floor, there's always a little gap there. And so that hides it and makes it all look done and nice. And I'd like to show you guys the rest of the room. As you see, we got the TV in today, got the couches in, computers are on the way to be installed there behind there. Everything's coming together. So we're going to be moving the LAN party space down here very shortly. If you guys haven't subscribed to our gaming channel, it's youtube.com/node. I recommend subscribing if you haven't already. We're going to be doing a lot of awesome stuff over the next year out of this space, which we're calling HQ 1.0. The rest of the room is also nearing completion, so I'm going to be doing proper 3ds Max tutorials really soon, as well as other VFX stuff. So get 3ds Max installed if you haven't already and you want to participate. I'll be answering questions through Twitter for that, and kind of be doing like a kind of instructional course for you guys, and hopefully you guys can all learn to do VFX artists if you want to, because you guys have requested it a ton. So I'll be using 3ds Max 2012. You can really use any 3ds Maxes, anything you can get your hands on will work, but 3ds Max 2012 is what I'll be using. I'll be rendering with V-Ray for a lot of stuff, so I recommend finding a way to get V-Ray. Motion tracking with Buju, use compositing in After Effects, and using the Adobe Suite in general. And let me see, theme effects will be touched on, and so if you're looking for software, that's kind of the things to start looking for. But I'll let you guys know kind of heads up when I'll start talking about it, and also let you guys know substitutes at the time. But those are the ones I'll be instructing with. So look forward to that. Thanks for watching, and we'll do the tutorial soon. Later, guys. Yeah.
Wait, are your rockets not connected to each other?
No. Is it possible to do that?
Yes. Spreading out.